This is Behind the Mic with Brad Dalius.
Welcome into Behind the Mic inside the Toyota Sports Center here in El Segundo. Kings Cove is our destination on Thursday evenings. It's great to have you aboard. Brad Dalius and Keith Jackson hanging out. Be sure to listen in live at BehindTheMicShow.com. Download the official Behind the Mic app. 7 to 9 tonight, as usual. Opening day across Major League Baseball. Lots going on there. Lots going on, obviously, with preparations for the Final Four down in San Antonio this weekend. We're going to check in at the bottom of the hour with Larry Hawley. He's going to check in from Chicago and give us everything that's going on, the skinny, if you will, with Loyola Chicago, Sister Jean, etc. We'll talk about the Final Four around 7:30 tonight with Larry. NFL, the owners' meetings continue down in Orlando. We have to get into the Odell Beckham Jr. situation tonight as well. This is one of those days, Keith, where your head is kind of on a swivel because there's so much going on, from the triple headers to quadruple headers of Major League Baseball opening day action on ESPN to everything else that's going on in the world of sports. I'm just full of excitement today because I don't know where to turn. There's so much news.
Yeah, it's so much you can talk about today, and I know everybody out there who's listening can't wait till we get into it, so we just might as well just go ahead and get it right into it. It's exciting to see all this stuff that's going on today, and it's just one of those events. How you have one of those spur of the moments, or one of those gaps that is just like no news. Well, today is different. It's like news all over the place with sports. So
exactly.
Let's get right into it.
It started off earlier today with the Angels and Athletics hooking up in Oakland. Big crowd on hand, I got to say, for the A's. Playing at the Coliseum there still. They're still drawing a lot of fans. I was impressed to see it. Still impressed to see that the A's are the only team in baseball still who wears white cleats here in 2018. Some things just don't change.
Yeah, just keep it original. I get that. Try to keep the history going, keep it historic. I roll with that. I love it.
This game was all about the Japanese sensation. One, Shohei Ohtani making his debut today in the DH spot. Mike Scioscia batting him 8th in the lineup. What does he do? He comes up his first at bat, Keith, base hit. Good way to start off his career. He did. He had a base hit with the bat on the ball, and it was exciting to see, one step at a time here, and he looked good.
Yeah, like I said, I think the Angels trying to work him in slow. And I think they're doing the right thing. You just work them in slow. Let them get some little reps in, and then you let them go. Towards like the middle of the season, I say let him go and just see what he can do. But it's really early, They got 161 games left of the season. So
I'm not talking about the team. I'm just talking about him in general.
It's for him in general too. He's got a lot of games he's going to be playing this year. So today's like a filler, just filling everyone out, just to everybody get their feet wet for the season opener, and it's the way you want to start off. It's great that he started off with a base hit. That's the way to do things. So good job to Ohtani.
The Angels, they did build a 4-0 lead in this game to kick it off. Ultimately, they fell 6-5 in extra innings. But like I said, it was a good debut for Ohtani. Not so much for the pitching staff of the Angels. We can get into that as time goes along. But this will be a work in progress with them this year. And that's why they're going to really look towards Ohtani to be that pitcher as well, and we'll see how quickly the him being a two-way player can develop here. Like I said, he's going to get the start on Sunday, Easter Sunday, the finale of that series up there in Oakland. And like I said, depending on how the rotation goes for them, they really could look towards Ohtani to be the guy who can make some, get some good innings for them potentially on the mound. But we'll see. As far as the lineup goes, Zach Kozar got the start at second base today. Ian Kinsler will start tomorrow for the first time. So, of course, they acquired Kinsler from Detroit in the offseason. Fans are excited to see him in there. They'll get him tomorrow. Albert Pujols comes up today with a couple of hits, scores a run as well. Justin Upton making his debut out in left field. He was hitless, Keith, in 5 at-bats, but it is just opening day. Mike Trout also hitless as well. But obviously there's a lot of big names in this lineup. Probably the guy who had the best day at the plate was Cole Calhoun, who started in right field, got a couple of hits for them. So
yeah, it's always somebody that you least expected to.
Right, exactly.
To do something. And, look, the bottom line is like they lost, yes, but it was a close game. They did come back, and the Oakland A's came back and won. But it was a close game, and they can learn from that and just continue to build, and hopefully they do. Because, again, like we had said yesterday, they need to make the postseason. I think that's their ultimate goal and what you get to. So my thing is I think you should always want to start off on the good note, want to get a W. Of course, everybody wants to get a W, but you want to get some momentum going. So you don't want to get in this thing of getting used to losing, and they don't want to start that season off like that. So hopefully they can get it together.
Garrett Richards got the start today for the Halos. 5 innings is what he went, gave up 7 hits, 4 earned runs, and a couple of strikeouts. The loss went to Ramirez out of the bullpen. And like I said, the pitching staff, both in the rotation and the bullpen, will be a work in progress for the Angels today and as we go along here in the early parts of the season. Closer here to Los Angeles, the boys in blue, man, disappointing, Keith. 1-0, they fell today to the Giants. And what was really disappointing about it was that the bats went ice cold. It kind of reminded me of Game 7 of the World Series. And it wasn't even like Madison Bumgarner was on the hill today. They lost to Ty Block.
Yeah, Dodgers I think it was just all the excitement getting back. People couldn't wait for them to get back and play, and they got upset at home. But you know what? It helps in a way because it brings them back down to reality that you are beatable, you can be beat, and this is not last year's season. This is this year. It's a whole different season, and you can't, in order to repeat and to get back to that point, you're gonna have to go. Everybody's gonna play you tough. Dodgers got a target on their back, same as the Astros. They have a major target on their back. So people, when they play them, they're going to come after them, and they're going to play them to the best of their ability every single time. So there's really no nights off for the Dodgers this year, So they got to come ready to play. And today they just didn't. They played against their rivals, of course, the Giants, and the Giants got it done. And the way to start off with for the Giants, I mean, that's the way you want to start off your season, is beating the champs. I mean, not the World Series champs, of course, but the divisional champs. And so, that's the way you want to start off. And they did the right thing. They got it done. Hopefully, Dodgers can bounce back and get one in and start rolling on a good foot. But right now, I think this game was more of like a message game to them that, hey, there's other teams here. You're expected to go back to the World Series and possibly win. You have a deep team, but look, we're going to give you our best run at it, and all these other teams want to do is just keep it close. If they can keep it close and pull it out at the end, that's what we're going to do, and that's what exactly happened tonight.
How about this one? The Dodgers had a total of 6 hits today. Clayton Kershaw had 2 of those.
Everybody was on vacation, man. They're still on vacation. They're still in spring training right now.
2 at-bats for Kershaw. He gets 2 hits. Who would have thunk it? And a good day for Grandal behind the plate. He had a couple of hits at the plate as well. As far as the Giants go, like you were saying, Keith, great start for them. They come into the season with a lot of injuries. Bumgarner obviously out. Jeff Samardzija out as well. We were talking about this last night with Dustin from Dodgers Digest and how he was, concerned about them, and rightfully so, with the injuries. But they weathered the storm today, and just a really impressive pitching performance from one Ty Block. And you have to give them credit. They've done this in recent memory here, when guys have gone down or when they need other guys to step up, they get these big pitching performances from guys who seemingly come out of nowhere. So you have to tip your cap to them. And as far as the lineup goes, it was the debut of Andrew McCutchen in right field, coming over from the Pirates in the offseason. He had a hit today in four at-bats, and Hunter Pence had a couple of hits as well. So the Giants, in what will be probably a tough stretch for them here to kick off the year with the injuries, like I said, they find a way to get it done today, and they get it done against a pretty good lineup in the Dodgers to hold them scoreless.
Hey, what it shows you for the Giants is they're trying to establish identity for their team, and they're trying to say, like, look, we can play with the best of them. And Dodgers are clearly their rival, so they're going to come out and play hard regardless. That's all about bragging rights in a way, you know? So when you look at it, I'm like, hey, if the Giants can get it done, and this really sends a message, like I told you, this is like a message game. It does. It sends a message to everyone else that the Dodgers they're beatable. You can beat them, you know? And for the Dodgers, it's just like, hey, we need to get to it. We're out of spring training now. This is the first game of the season. We want to start on a good foot. They didn't, but hopefully they can bounce back. It's a lot of games left in the season, you know, but this can also hurt you and it can help you in a way. It really shows like the true character of your team. So are we going to see a Dodgers that's going to go on this losing streak for the next couple weeks and then they start getting some games in? Or are we going to see a Dodgers team that's like, okay, we woke up, you poked the bear, now we woke up, we're going to start making a run. So hopefully we can see that side instead of the other.
Time will tell. I hate losing on opening day, though, right?
Yeah,
doesn't matter what sport.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's awful losing on opening day. Chase Utley, by the way, with a pinch hit single today for the Dodgers as well. Like I said, a total of 6 hits. Bat's got to warm up. Like you were saying, though, Keith, no need to overreact. It's just 1 of 162. Long way to go. How about, though, the day getting just kicked off with a bang? And, you know, the Marlins taking on the Cubs down there in Miami. Just right off the bat, like I said, Ian Happ comes up and hits the very first pitch of the season for a home run out of the ballpark. It was a rough go of it for the Marlins pitching today, especially their starter, Urena, in the first inning. He hits not 1, not 2, but 3 Chicago Cub players.
Yeah, he needs to go back to the AAA league. He can't be doing that.
I'm thinking that's got to be a major league record. I don't think that's ever been done before, especially on opening day. In the first inning, he hits 3 batters.
That's
brutal.
Like something personal. Like you're getting personal with someone.
I don't think so. I think he's just bad.
Yeah. Or nervous.
It's probably a combination of the two.
Yeah, I think he could be he's a little nervous, getting the jitters out. But dang, hitting 3 guys, like, it's like, come on, man, wake up now.
In the first inning, like I said, nonetheless. Yeah. So that game gets off with a bang, like I said, with Ian Happ, solo homer for the Cubs. How about Giancarlo Stanton wasting no time and wasting none of Brian Cashman's money and just going to town right away, hitting a bomb in Toronto for the Yankees home opener, or road opener, rather, against the Blue Jays. So Stanton already is getting off to a good start here in 2018. And George Springer, the World Series MVP from last fall, hits a home run in his first at-bat this year as well. So the Astros, with a good win today over the Rangers, that offense picked right up where it left off in the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, look, Houston and New York, they're sending a message across the whole entire league that they're the premier teams of the league, and they're gonna come. They're gonna come and get you every night. You know, that's what they're doing. They picked up what they left off. It's just fortunate those two are gonna have to meet up with each other. Then, you know, in the postseason, and only one can go. You know, but with that said, look. When you pay all that money for the Giants and they pay all that money for those players, you expect to win, and that's what you want. You know, you get the best players money can buy, as they say. You know, that's what you're supposed to do. So I think that's what they're doing, and hey, they're out there and they're showing it. So 6-1 against Toronto, and then Texas 4-1. I mean, that's a solid start off. That's the way to start off your season. So, you know, we'll see how they do. Keep going. Again, it's only one game, but. You know, way to start off. That's a good on the right foot. So I can give that to them.
Stars perform at any point in this season. It doesn't matter if it's spring training, regular season, postseason. They perform, and you saw that today from Stanton, from a Springer. Altuve with the Astros as well, and Verlander. Verlander with a solid outing today, 6 innings pitched, no earned runs for the righty down there in Houston. So the defending champs get off to a good start. The Yankees do as well, like we mentioned. And the Dodgers, 1-0. They'll try and bounce back tomorrow. The Angels will try and bounce back as well against Oakland as they got out to a 4-0 lead, but then ultimately Oakland comes back to win it in extras 6-5. Just getting underway here behind the mic, live on location at Kings Cove inside the Toyota Sports Center in El Segundo. Brad and Keith hanging out. Definitely be sure to listen online, BehindTheMicShow.com, and also download that official Behind the Mic app. At the bottom of the hour, we're going to check in with Larry Hawley, who covers Chicago sports for WGN-TV and CLTV in Chicago. We'll check in with him and talk all things Loyola Chicago and the Final Four as that gets underway in about 48 hours from now on Saturday down in San Antonio. Lots to talk about with Larry, and as you know, just this Cinderella run of the Ramblers continues to move along. So we'll get into that soon. Big breaking news, though, within the last couple of hours was that the Canelo Triple G fight is postponed indefinitely at this point, Keith, due to Canelo's actions for what we talked about a few weeks ago, for testing positive for a banned substance, and now they're further investigating this. The Nevada Board of Sports Athletics is diving more into this, and there's more of a thorough review that's going to take place. So it's not good news for Canelo. Triple G, it's
and
not
Golden Boy Promotions.
Yeah, it's not good news for them either. But at the end of the day, Triple G is going to be worthy of any fight that he comes into. So
yeah,
it hurts in the short term, but in the long term, it'd be all right.
Yeah, Triple G. Hey, he's like, I'm coming ready to fight anyway. May 5th, I'm coming ready to fight. I don't care who I'm fighting. For the Golden Boy Promotions, I mean, Oscar's got to be very upset. I mean, I know he's upset for the simple fact that this is his event. It's not going, it's a big money maker, and yes, he's going to go with his fighter and say that it's an accidental. It didn't happen. Blah 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 blah. I don't agree with all that. The bottom line is this: you have Canelo. You're a top tier fighter. You have top tier people in your camp who watch your diet, everything like that. They would know. They have to test everything. How did they slip up on that? I'm sorry. You pay them a lot of money to watch your diet and make sure there's certain things in there, and it slipped up. It was in there. That is like Bob Arum saying, and I totally agree. Saying that is like saying your dog ate your homework. I completely agree with them on that. I think they knew. They all knew. And Triple G, the reason they wouldn't have dig deep into further investigation is because Triple G came out and said that Canelo's a cheater. He cheats. He said he's seen his arms, and they looked like they had some injection holes. He said there were quote unquote holes in his skin, punctures in his skin and things like that. And that's so it did raise a couple of eyebrows. But for the fact remains is this: Golden Boy Promotion, Oscar De La Hoya, Canelo, they got a lot of money over there, and they have guys in their camp that get paid a lot of money. You can't let things slip up. If that did happen, it's their fault because because they should have known what was in them food. Bottom line, I mean that's just how it works. That's how it works. So they slipped up. Now they jeopardized the fight, and if it doesn't happen, Canelo fans cannot be. The only person they can be upset with is Canelo and Golden Boy Promotions. That's what you're upset with, not Triple G, not the Boxing Association. They're just doing their job, and they're investigating and looking into it. Yes, it's a big money maker. Everybody wants to see the fight, but I get it. Triple G's like, hey, this is safety, and the Triple G's camp saying it's the safety of our fighter and our player. We want to make sure that nothing is in his body that don't supposed to be in his body. So, this happens, and it's unfortunate, but if it doesn't happen, which it may not, then that's Golden Boy Promotions and Canelo Alvarez's fault. They dropped the ball.
The complaint was signed on Tuesday by the Nevada State Athletic Commission Executive Director Bob Bennett. It was made public today. And again, it all but pretty much seals the deal that the rematch between Canelo and Triple G is just not going to happen now in May. And it's just unfortunate for fans of the sport. But like you said, Keith, fans of Canelo have no one to blame but him himself for what went down here. And it was just carelessness and really just a lack of professionalism across all fronts here. And it's just unfortunate, obviously, because this is something that could be avoided. And that's, I think, the biggest thing to take away from this here. And unfortunately, it wasn't due to just a pure lack of stupidity. So you have to move forward with it, I think, if you're Triple G, and you just have to roll with the punches, no pun intended.
I totally agree. You got to roll with the punches, and I think that's what Triple G's doing. He's saying, hey, I'm going to fight regardless. And I don't know who that person's going to be, but it ain't going to be Canelo. So go with the punches.
They'll find someone else.
Yeah.
They'll find someone else to make up for it, or they'll have to.
Yeah.
They'll have to, and they'll be able to move forward eventually. And like I said, Triple G, he'll get what he deserves to get going forward.
Yeah, he will. He will. I mean, look, and just look. If it doesn't happen in May, it may happen in September. It may happen in September, and that's when it happens. Or it may not happen now. It may happen a year from now. I mean, something has to happen where Canelo has to probably get suspended for a year. I think that's for first
time like offender. Yeah,
like I think it's like a year suspension. So he may get a year. And, look, if he gets a year, then again, that's his camp and all their fault. So he has, next time, it's a lesson learned, watch what he's intaking in his body.
It's simple. Who would you like to see Triple G fight?
Well,
let's
honestly,
put Canelo off to the side here.
If I want to see who I would like to see Triple G fight is, I would say Errol Spence.
Okay.
Errol Spence Jr. I mean, he's a prize fighter. He's out there. There's so many people in the welterweight. I would like to see him fight Errol Spence Jr. or Terrence Crawford. I think those are good. Or Keith Thurman. Maybe Keith Thurman will be good because Keith Thurman is a hard hitter puncher like Triple G. And I would like to see those. I would love to see Adrian Broner fight him just to Adrian Broner get his head knocked off. But AB, he's complaining about a bunch of stuff, but no, he has to prove himself. But Errol Spence Jr. or Terrence Crawford will be someone, or Keith Thurman. I think people will go and watch that.
Speaking of boxing, your boy Floyd Mayweather was down courtside for Cleveland and LeBron and company taking on Dwayne Wade in the Heat earlier this week. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
What was up with that?
Well, Floyd has a house in Miami.
Okay.
So he likes basketball, and what I know is Floyd also is looking to invest in his basketball team, the NBA team. So don't know which one, but that's something in his business ventures and his goals that he's looking to do, and it's going to happen. He loves basketball, and it doesn't know which one he's going to do. He's real close with Magic Johnson. He's talked to him about things that he's looking into and like how to manage a team, things like that.
It's a good guy to talk to.
Yeah, and great guy to talk to. And so he's looking into a team. I don't know if he's been all over. He supports IT too over there at the Lakers, and so he has a house in LA. He has a house in Miami. He's got a house a place in New York, and and he just travels and he goes sees games. He goes Washington games sometimes to go see them, and so he's looking to invest in the team, and I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm sure soon, or when he's ready or to pull the trigger. But I know his camp and his business camps, they are definitely looking into that. Would
he be good in that role?
He's learning it. I think he would be. I think it's more of an ownership than anything. It's not like he wants to do hands-on and general manager and drafting players and things like that. He's good at promoting athletes and getting them money and get them paid. So I'm sure he would get those guys paid, but he wants to own a team.
Yeah.
So, and then have bring a GM in to do that part. He wants to own a team, and he's going to get to that point where he will be doing that. I don't know what team would be the best team for him. I know Atlanta's out there. Atlanta's out there for people looking to buy in. And so we'll see.
Yeah, you also have Carolina, the Panthers, that group led by P. Diddy.
P. Diddy, who's talked about that. Football, I don't know. I don't know if he's looking into football though, but he may put his name in the hat. I mean, Floyd has made so much money that you got to respect him.
Absolutely,
he's in the billionaire class, so he's in that class where you got to respect him and. You got to put it like this. You got to set a meeting at the table with him, for sure.
No question. I mean, his 50-0 record alone speaks for itself.
Yeah.
And what he was able to do, I don't care what sport it is, 50-0, that still continues to raise eyebrows. So now I'm in complete agreement with you, though, Keith. And it is going to be really interesting to follow him along here in his next ventures and to see if he maybe is able to purchase a team at some point here down the line.
Yeah, that's
just seeing him in that type of environment, I think, would be good for the sport.
Yeah, that's his next step, though. It's that. Look, it's promoting TMT, getting those fighters, the fights that they deserve, and getting as many champions as he can on his team, and getting the fans what they want. His other business ventures is him really owning teams. He wants to be in that class, and he's sure in it already. So,
well, I'll tell you a guy who definitely has his hands full as a new owner, and that's Derek Jeter.
Oh yeah,
with the Marlins.
Yeah,
man, oh man.
Yeah, way to start off.
Got a lot. He's got a lot on his plate down there, trying to rebuild that team. And although they did do very well today, it was packed.
Yeah, it was packed. He did do very well, and it just takes some time. Those guys, it took some time for Michael Jordan. I mean, he's still learning as he's doing his thing over there at Charlotte. So it just takes time. But Floyd was going to definitely have a lot of backing and people helping him out doing something like that. So
no question.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of things, movies, all that stuff he's looking into. So we'll see.
It's Behind the Mic from Kings Cove inside the Toyota Sports Center. Once again, Dodgers fall on opening day 1-0. The Angels fall in extras to the Athletics 6-5. We'll take a break. We'll come back, and we will speak with Larry Hawley from WGN and CLTV in Chicago, talking about the Final Four down in San Antonio. Brad and Keith back for more after this.
Our military service members volunteer to protect us in the most dangerous places around the world. They step up. And when they are severely ill or injured, returning to their families is only the beginning of their long road home. Beyond all the hospitals and doctors and surgeries they need just to survive, they also deserve whatever they need to truly live. All the in-home care and day-to-day help they need to live independently, on their own terms. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs were established to provide these brave men and women whatever they need to continue their fight for independence, at no cost, for life. So many of them need us, and it's time for a grateful nation to step up. Find out how you can do your part at findwwp.org.
It took me a long time to be able to say Chandler has cancer, because that is such a scary word. St. Jude takes care of absolutely everything. And knowing that we don't have to pay for all of the medical expenses, that's huge.
St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
St. Jude is uniquely positioned to advance the cures of pediatric cancer, I think better than any other institution in the world. The contributions make a big difference.
Donors are important to us because you get the feeling that you have a team behind you. We have the resources and we have the focus. And so if St. Jude doesn't do it, who will?
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
We all come together and stand together to serve our veterans. We invest in the latest technology.
We take the time to train the next generation of doctors and nurses. We work together to make sure we heal their bodies and their minds.
This is our mission. More than 300,000 of us working as one, together with families and loved ones. No matter where they live in this country, we'll be there.
We stand strong, united. Stand with us in caring for our veterans.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? Shifting to a system based on primary care can help fix the problem. Patients with a primary care doctor live longer, healthier lives and are less likely to suffer from cancer, heart disease, or stroke. Primary care that is comprehensive and coordinated also saves money. Patients who have a primary care doctor spend 30% less on health care than patients who don't. States with a high number of primary care doctors have lower health care costs and higher quality care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
This is Behind the Mic with Brad Dalius.
Welcome back inside Kings Cove, Toyota Sports Center in El Segundo. Brad and Keith hanging out with you behind the mic on a Thursday night. We've been talking Major League Baseball opening day. Like I said before the break, Dodgers fall, unfortunately, 1-0 earlier to the San Francisco Giants. Angels fall in extra innings to the Athletics as well. We talked Canelo Triple G also before the break, and now we're going to switch gears and talk a little Final Four. Just over about 48 hours away, Keith, from things tipping off down in San Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
And to talk with us now about the Final Four, we now welcome in Larry Hawley, who covers sports for WGN and CLTV in Chicago. Larry, we appreciate the time. How are things going tonight?
Oh, it's going wonderful, and thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. A lot of excitement around here for Loyola. Certainly something people have been able to get behind, and it's been a lot of fun.
It's our pleasure. We're basketball junkies. What can we say? This tournament's been phenomenal. We say this every year, I feel, in general, that this is the best March Madness ever, but truly, as we've talked about, this year takes the cake. From the unbelievable runs and upsets, obviously, to some of the great games we've had down the stretch in the recent rounds with the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, to Loyola Chicago, Larry, and what this team has been able to do all year long, as they've had a phenomenal season, but the majority of the country has really only heard about them within the last couple of weeks here. I'm just curious right off the bat to get your take on, we can see and we can watch in some of the major media outlets what the team has meant for the city of Chicago, but for someone who actually lives there on a regular basis, what has this Ramblers team meant for the Windy City?
Well, I think it's if you look at the history of basketball around here, and what's happened maybe the last 20 or 30 years, you've had some good things happen, but you haven't had a Final Four run. We had the excitement of Northwestern last year going to their first tournament ever, and then picking up a victory when they got there. But really, other than that, there really wasn't much going on. DePaul had not made the tournament since 2004. Illinois, who is downstate, not really a Chicago team, but has a regional following, has really not been in a dominant place since their 05 run with T, Darren, and Luther. So this is something I think people have really been able to get behind, because there are a lot of college basketball fans here. And frankly, outside of Northwestern's run last year, there hasn't been a lot to root for. And kind of, not necessarily out of the woodwork, but a little bit, comes this Loyola team. They captured some people's attention when they beat Florida back in December. They remember Florida was ranked 5th when they upset them on the road. And not only beat them, but pretty much led the entire way. They go through the Missouri Valley Conference season without many hiccups. Their last loss came to Bradley on January 31st. And ever since then, they've played really well. And I think when people went into the tournament, they anticipated that Loyola might be able to win a game or two, but to be able to make the Final Four has been something special. And it's been a lot of fun to see people really rally around it. I didn't know how much people would, but people have embraced it. They've embraced the way that they play. It is a very cohesive team. They are a fun team to watch. And then there's other variables, the small school, the Sister Jean. That's kind of made it an exciting thing. And don't forget, this comes during a winter where the Bulls are in a deep rebuild and the Blackhawks are going to miss the playoffs for the first time in 10 years. Chicago sports is looking for some positivity before baseball gets here, and this is that outlet. I think they're that positive Chicago winner story that really didn't happen this year, especially when it comes to the Blackhawks.
Well, you know what else is great about this team is that I told we were talking about them last night, and I said one thing about the Loyola Chicago team is this. They remind me so much of Hoosiers. Remember Hoosiers, the players on that team? Not guys they don't have superstar athletes. They don't have guys that you think are going to go to the NBA. But everybody on that team plays together. And on top of just playing together, they all average around the same amount of points, and that's what makes them so dangerous as a team on the court. And because you can't just you can't double up on one player, not against this team. And they're just a unique team. And like you said, they upset Florida. And now they're going in and they're playing Michigan. And I know this is what's going to give them a headache, a lot of teams a headache. And I know Michigan a headache is the fact that you have to play a certain way against this team. You can't just match up man to man because they can take you off the dribble. You know, you can't, if you zone them, they can shoot the three, and they're a great interior passing team. What do you think is going to be, and let me ask you, what do you think is going to be the reason this team beats Michigan this upcoming Saturday? Because I'm going with them and saying that at first, after going to go watch Michigan play against Florida State, I said after seeing that game, I said Loyola Chicago is going to get them. What is going to be so my question is, what do you think is going to be the outcome of this game coming up against Michigan, but what's going to be the deciding factor?
I think for me, there's one guy I'm really looking at in particular for Loyola who I think could be a big factor in this game, because Mo Wagner obviously is a tremendous player. And then Charles Matthews, who's actually the guy from Chicago, he went to St. Rita High School. They're going to present some matchup problems. Cameron Krutwig is a freshman player, and he's had a really, really good season. He's from the Chicago area. He's from Algonquin, which is a northern suburb, and went to Jacobs High School. He played really, really well inside. He was a really tremendous player. He kind of reminds me, I was speaking before that I lived in Indianapolis, he reminds me a lot of Matt Howard, a player who, when on his game, can get inside and make a lot of headaches. For me, he's the key. You've seen in these last 4 games, somebody new has stepped up. You had in the Miami game, you had Dante Ingram. Then you had Clayton Custer against Tennessee. You had Marcus Towns, the guard, come up huge against Nevada. And then Ben Richardson, who was a light scorer all season long, averaged about 6.4 points a game, goes off for 23 against Kansas State. Krutwig's the guy I'm looking at. He's the guy inside that can do some policing. He's as big, one of their big guys along with Andre Jackson. I think Jackson could be another guy, too. I'm really curious to see what they'll be able to add to it. Each is contributing here in their little long ways, but Krutwig's the guy I'm really looking at. He's still waiting for that big breakout game in this tournament, and this is going to present a number of challenges to him. He's the guy I kind of look at and say, okay, what's he going to do? What steps he going to take? Because he's that next guy. Loyola has had a decentralized hero system, and it's worked out very well for them. If I had to look at that, and in particular, it's kind of Krutwig's play, and I think being able to slow down Mo Wagner is going to be huge. I think those are the two things I look at, and I go, if they can rise up and make those things happen, then they're going to go to the championship game.
We know that all 5 of the Rambler starters can score, Larry. We've seen that. It's been impressive, the fact how they can spread the wealth around, like you were talking about earlier, Keith, as well. How about how good this team has been coached, though, in this tournament led by Porter Moser? And you mentioned before how you used to cover sports in Indianapolis before coming to Chicago. You were there during the Butler run in 2010 and 2011. Does Porter Moser kind of remind you of a Brad Stevens?
In some ways, but they both took different paths. I think each coach has their own way, and I really like in some of the aspects of what Porter's done. Porter has, in many ways, evolved as a coach. For those here in Illinois, they remember him during his time at Illinois State. He was able to get a little bit of fire started down there, but never got any momentum going, and was fired after 4 years by, oddly enough, the Kansas athletic director who is there now. And I think what's interesting, when Brad was in Indianapolis, he had such a rise through that program. He started as, one of the basketball director of operations, came through as an assistant coach under Todd Licklider, and then he came up, and he had a new way, a tactician. He was a different guy. I think Moser does it a little bit differently. While I think he can be solid when doing the strategic things, he is a guy who can sell a program. He is a guy who can get out there and inspire. Not that Stevens can't. Stevens certainly can do that. But the way Porter's evolved, the way he's been able to keep his enthusiasm, the way he's been able to find the right guys, go into Chicago and get those guys to stay here and make it work, is impressive. And I think you've seen that come together. Don't forget, this wasn't something that happened in 2 or 3 years. Moser's first year in 2011, 2012, they were 7-13. They won the CBI in 2014-15 and then had a losing season after that. They didn't stay down. They came back kind of like his career won 18-14 last year. And with those guys they recruited, bringing in the guys, like an Ingram, who's from a traditional power here in Chicago City High School, going out and getting a Cutlass from Jacobs, and then being able to get the guys from Kansas, getting Richardson and Custer coming from a transfer on until he went Fred Hoiberg left Iowa State. You've been able to see him build that. So I really like what Porter's done as a builder. I think what he's been able to build, what he's had here, has been relatively impressive. And while he might not be as, he didn't have the speed of a pass up that Stevens did, Porter's really refined himself over these years and really has created what I think might be the best story of this tournament, because he was in his late 30s, fired from his job, spent 4 years as an assistant with Rick Majerus, and then took over a program that at that point had not made an NCAA tournament in almost 30 years. It's a remarkable story, and one, I try to tell on WGNTV.com, and one that I think people should know about, because his story is incredible. It stands on its own, and certainly a lot of college basketball coaches are going to be able to look at that as an example of how to move forward when things don't go well.
Looking at this team now, you look at many Cinderella teams that's been over the years. You had Gonzaga, that used to be a Cinderella team that's now a powerhouse. You have George Mason, that was a Cinderella team a few years ago. And you can go down to Northwestern, like we talked about, you said earlier. And we just go down a list of all these, UMBC this year was a Cinderella team story. But you look at it, Loyola Chicago has a chance to be the best Cinderella team in history if they win come this Saturday. Do you think that is true? Do you think that them winning this game, they can go down as the best Cinderella team in history? Because there's only one team out there that's been all the way to a Final Four, and that's George Mason. And they were actually a number 11 seed like Loyola Chicago. So do you think if Loyola Chicago wins this Saturday, they go down as the best Cinderella team in history of the NCAA tournament?
I think you could make a very compelling argument for it, and probably I would make an argument for it for this reason. Number one, they're a self-made program built from kind of the ground up. This is not a traditional power that came out of nowhere. This was not something that just happened. This was a program that was built with a coach who was fired at a fellow MVC school. This was built on a couple of kids from Kansas and kids from Chicago who were under-recruited but found a place at Loyola to be at home. There is, of course, the 11 seed. There's the fact that they were able to do it from such a low seed. Not an 11 hasn't even made it to the championship game, and let alone win it. And then, of course, there's the thought, if they beat Michigan, who's a very good team, but if they go there and beat a Kansas team that's incredibly athletic, or they beat a Villanova team that's surgically good, that's a massive upset. And I think just for all of those reasons, and knowing the kind of team they're built with, and again, don't you factor in, I mean, you want to make sure a lot of folks on the team, but you factor in the sister team, you factor in the Jesuit school, you factor in this true kind of David versus Goliath feel, you really do end up with a true Cinderella. Now, there's going to be teams, I think the 1985 Villanova team, the one that won the championship from the 8th seed, is going to get a lot of arguments. And don't forget, in that championship game, they beat the defending champions and arguably one of the best college basketball players in history in Patrick Ewing. You're going to have that going there. But I would have to say that they would have to be up there. I would say if they're not first, they're probably second. If somebody else comes through, they're probably third. But I can make a very compelling argument with their speed, with how they were built, and also remember in this year of college basketball, full of controversy, to have them win could arguably be one of the greatest tournament stories of all time.
Larry Hawley joining us from WGN and CLTV in Chicago, talking about the Final Four, the Ramblers taking on Michigan in the first semifinal on Saturday. And, of course, you have the Blue Bloods. Kansas and Villanova will be the nightcap. Let's get down to brass tacks now, Larry. Let's talk about Sister Jean and the effect that she's had on the team and the whole country at this point, and possibly a large portion of the world, and what she has meant to the team. And obviously, this is not her first year. She's been with the team for a very, very long time. The fact that she was a part of the school in 1963 when they won their last championship is amazing in itself. Just your take on living in Chicago and really witnessing all this firsthand, and the Sister Jean effect, if you will, and the true effect it really has had on this team.
I think Sister Jean she is the face of this run. I think for anybody who doesn't follow basketball or follows the tournament sort of, on the periphery, Sister Jean's the first thing you notice. But to understand Sister Jean, I think the one thing, because you kind of get to meet some Loyola people here over the past few weeks, one thing you have to understand about Sister Jean is not just her impact on the basketball team, but her impact on the school. There was a writer for the Chicago Sun-Times, Madeline Penny, who said that she talked to Sister Jean all the time. There was a producer here at WGN, she talked to Sister Jean all the time. Sister Jean is Loyola. She is the representative, the face of not just the basketball team, but the entire school. She is a person that you could turn to for advice. She is a person that would make sure things were kept in order at Loyola. Anything from making sure people get on the right buses to getting the lines right at certain events. Sister Jean was that person. She was that person that you could talk to if you were struggling. That's what I've heard from people at Loyola, and that's not basketball players. She is a representative of this school, this Jesuit school that's been here in Chicago for a very, very long time. And it's easy to gravitate towards something like that. Again, this has been a very negative year in college basketball. And you're looking at someone who's an extremely positive person who not only is front and center with that basketball team, but has been front and center with the entire university. And it's something easy to rally around. It's easy to see her. She's very visible. She's been on the court when they've won games. She's been visible in the prayer circles before games. And she's someone that you can look up to and say she is somebody who is positively contributing both in college athletics and also in the university as a whole. It's a very easy story to get around. In fact, you could argue Sister Jean is the most popular person on this team. That might not be true.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But you can make that argument that she is in face of this run. And it's impressive. And that's what it is. Sister Jean is genuine. In a college basketball year where you see a lot of things that just don't. And people easily gravitate to that, especially here in Chicago.
Well, you're absolutely right because, after the win against, oh my God, I'm going blank right here. After the win against Kansas State, Atlanta Falcons tweeted out that they want to keep Sister Jean. Can Sister Jean stay in Atlanta with them? So, the Ramblers better be careful, man. because Sister Jean may be an Atlanta Falcon after this, you know. But with that also said, though, back to I wanted to ask you in terms of matchups. Let's say Loyola Chicago beats Michigan this Saturday. Who does Loyola Chicago want to see in the national championship, and why? Do they want to see a Kansas, or do they want to see a Kentucky? I'm sorry, a Kansas or
Villanova.
Villanova. I'm sorry, or a Villanova.
Man, it's all right. I mean, there's something about Villanova, and I'm like I said, I went to the University of Illinois. I covered them. I'm a big. I like Bill Self, even though he left, and a lot of people didn't like that. Bill, and I think he would bring a very athletic team against Loyola. There's something about Villanova, and it's the Jay Wright team, and also Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is a Chicago area guy. He went to Stevenson High School here, and was the Mr. Basketball for the state before he then eventually went out to Villanova. There's something about that team, and with Bridges there too, there's something about that team that really scares me, especially the way that they turned it up against Texas Tech and the way that they played all year. I would say I think they're both difficult, but if Villanova gets there, which I kind of think they will, that's going to be a hell of a matchup because Brunson's an elite player, Wright is an elite coach, and they are a finely tuned machine. I use the same surgical. That's how those teams get when they're together and they make it work. I would say probably Kansas. That's not saying it's any easier because I think Villanova is a nightmare for any team that faces it.
Jay Wright may be the best coach in America right now. You bring up a great point, Larry. At this point, I look at it like this. The Ramblers, if they are fortunate to win against Michigan on Saturday, if I'm a player on the team, if I'm on the coaching staff, I don't think it really matters, personally. I think it's the mentality of bring it on at this point, just considering if they're able to make it to the championship game on Monday night, no one in the world thought they'd get to that point. They obviously would be playing with house money in a sense, obviously, and they would be there for the moment. And but with that being said, though, with how they've played, they would be there to win because that's how they've approached each and every one of these games this tournament. So it's going to be a phenomenal atmosphere on Saturday. I can't wait for it personally, and I thought you hit the nail on the head earlier with your point about how in a year in which college basketball has seen a lot of black clouds above it, the Loyola Chicago run, the Sister Jean effect, you look throughout the whole tournament this year, all the different storylines have really shown everybody the good of college basketball, and to me, that's got to be one of the grand storylines in this entire tournament.
Yeah, and it's been amazing. I mean, really, this was unexpected. A Sweet 16 run, you could see, but for them to get this far to the Final Four, you just didn't see it. It reminds me a lot of Butler's 2010 run and 11 run, more the 11 run because they were much more of an underdog then. And it's something that inspires. It is. I always said there is that David versus Goliath. I always think of that championship, the NFL AFC Championship game intro with John Malkovich. David versus Goliath. This is what this is. It's a story that never gets old. It's a story that everybody likes to hear. And we're seeing it play out yet again in the NCAA tournament, and maybe even to a level that we haven't seen before.
Follow him at Hawley Sports on Twitter. Larry Hawley joining us once again here on Behind the Mic. He covers sports for WGN and CLTV in Chicago. Larry, Monday morning, the championship game is over. The dust has settled. What does the headline say?
I would say probably Top Cats because I think Villanova's going to win it. I do think Loyola's going to find a way to beat Michigan. But it's good. It's tough for me. I'd love to see Loyola do it. But Villanova's very, very good. And I think no matter what Loyola does now, you're right, it's house money. Once you get to the national championship and you see the prize there, that changes a little bit. I think it certainly does, even no matter how big of an underdog you are. But I would say probably Top Cats because I think Villanova right now is the best team in that region. I think that there's enough experience on that group. And again, I come back to Brunson. I think that he could be a guy to make that happen. I'd love to see Loyola win. Right now, if I were picking, I would probably say Loyola against Villanova, with Villanova winning probably somewhere in the 5 to 8 point range.
Let me ask you this, Larry. Here it is. Loyola Chicago beats Michigan. Loyola Chicago wins the national championship. What happens to the Loyola Chicago's program? What changes about the program? This program is catapulted as an elite program, and for the NCAA, now different type of recruits come in. Do now top-tier teams want to schedule their games against Loyola Chicago? What happens to the Loyola Chicago program? Do they get McDonald All-Americans now wanting to come to their university?
And you're saying if they win it?
They win it all.
If they win it all, that would be very interesting to see because, we never really saw that at Butler. They got, because there's a lot of comparisons I make to them. You never really saw that at Butler. Would they get McDonald's All-Americans? I don't know. Are they going to be, I think certainly they'd be more in the conversation. I think the biggest area could help is keeping local talent here in Chicago. I think that could be one area that they really do it. Because if they look, we look at the Missouri Valley Conference, you see what Wichita has done. They've moved up. I think certainly you could see more local talent coming in. Are you going to see guys coming from out west? Are you going to see some of the best? I don't know if you'll see that. I don't know if that's going to be the case. What I do know is that Loyola would probably get some significant upgrades as far as in facilities, as far as attention. That's where you would really get something if they wanted. I think they kind of get that now even by making the Final Four. You never underestimate the power of making a Final Four. Because it has such prestige in basketball, just getting there can be a significant step. It can be. The only time it isn't, and like I said, I went to Illinois. When Illinois went to the Final Four in 2005, that was a 3-year buildup under Bill Self to Bruce Weber to creating almost this dynasty. When they got to the Final Four, it was expected. When they didn't win it, that was a problem because that was the year it was supposed to happen. And in many ways, the program never recovered. That's a bit of a rare circumstance. This is different. I think if Loyola wins the next 2 games, loses to Michigan, or ends up losing to a Villanova or Kansas in the final, I think the biggest benefits are you get a little bit higher level of a player, but I don't think it changes. I think the culture of a program stays the culture of a program no matter what. What I think you'll see is a little bit of elevated talent, but I don't see this program going Hollywood, if that makes any sense. I don't see it, they're just going big, flashy. I think they keep the same principles. What you may see now, though, is being able to get a higher level of player, especially here in the state, who now sees a viable place to go home and be able to stay and play, similar to how DePaul was able to win back in the late 70s, early and mid-80s, when they were able to attract that local talent to come home and win here.
Okay. Are they a level of Gonzaga, though? Can we say that? Can we say
what is that?
Can we say that they're a level of Gonzaga if they win it all? Will they be at that level?
That's a good point. That's a good program. I think it would take a little bit more. It could be. I mean, Gonzaga built with all they had, and don't forget. I mean, they started their run. You can go back to the Stocktons way back in the '80s, but you think of their run starting maybe mid '90s. They did all that without ever making a final. So I think Gonzaga could be one of those. That could be a program you look at. I look at the Gonzagas. I look at the Butlers. Like I said, I feel a lot of Butler connection. That's where I would look first. Butler and Loyola are kind of similar, smaller schools. The one thing Butler had, they obviously had the iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse. That's what they have. That's kind of where I could see. They could end up like a Gonzaga. But again, this is 1 year for the first time in 33 years. You can have this 1 year, but you have to build up that success. What I think this could do is give them a shot to build on that success through being able to recruit another level of player while also being able to get some money into the program to allow for some facility upgrades. And in that point, you're able to kind of take it there. But certainly that's the path, the Gonzaga, the Butlers. If you're thinking dream scenario, you're thinking big, that's where you're looking.
It's amazing the difference a couple of weeks can make. Larry, we appreciate the time tonight. Both of us are rooting hard for Loyola Chicago to potentially just not even make the championship game, but to win the whole thing. We think this has been such a magical run and the tournament's been so great, it would only be fitting to see them come out on top. So we shall see. That's why they play the games. But Larry, thanks so much for the time tonight. We appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of this run.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful night and enjoy LA.
You as well. Take care, Larry.
Take care, man.
There he goes once again, Larry Hawley checking in from WGN and CLTV in Chicago. He's a sports producer there. And interestingly enough, before there, like he had mentioned, he covered sports in Indianapolis during that Butler run in 2010, 2011. So he's got great timing, obviously, Keith.
Exactly. What a great interview on top of that.
Great stuff. Great insights.
Yes.
I mean, we have some great interviews here on Behind the Mic, but this has been one of the best ones we've had, I think, in recent weeks.
Of course. I mean, he hit it. I mean, it's an exciting time for the NCAA. This has been the talk of the town all over, not just in L.A., but all over. And Loyola Chicago is a hot topic. You know, they're a team that everybody wants to know about. I have to say this, though. I think that with them winning it all, they are at a level of a Gonzaga. They are at a level of Butler. I think they're even at a level of like a Wichita State VCU, you know, at one time. So, I mean, look, they're definitely getting money into their program, just even making it to the Final Four.
No question. If you go on their website, the Loyola school website and the athletics page, totally different.
It is. They're going to get a brand new facility, probably going to get better sponsorships. I'm sure whoever they're sponsored by. I mean, if they're sponsored by Nike, then hey, they're going to be sponsored by Nike. But it's great for whoever their sponsor is. It's great for them. And, you know, you can see just big things coming. I do think this. When you make it to the NCAA tournament, your program changes. It just happened. If you even make it to the 64, the 64 top teams, your program changes. That's a selling point to get recruits in. When you make it when you're coming fresh off an NCAA tournament, you're going to get a different type of caliber players coming to your program when you make it to the NCAA tournament. And for them to make it this far and this deep, I can see them getting McDonald All-Americans.
Not to mention
locals.
Yeah, and not to cut you off, Keith, but not to mention the fact that they're doing it in 2018 when social media is in its prime, if you will.
Exactly. I can see it happening. They're now a team that, you know, to me, in terms of recruiting, you know, Illinois, Chicago, they got to watch out. University of Illinois, they got to watch out. Because they're going to get, even though they're a bigger university, they're like, hey, this team went to the Final Four, possibly win a national championship. They'll grab those recruits. You know?
It's a great point. And you talk about Illinois as far as schools go. Illinois has been a great school traditionally. Yes. You wouldn't know it as of recent. The program is just not where it's been when they made it.
D. Brown and all those guys
since they made it to the title game in 2005, it just has not been the same. Now you have Weber coaching at Kansas State. He's kind of got that program to be somewhat successful there. So, yeah, it's interesting, and I think you have a great point where they have to look over their shoulder now, the Illinois of the world and some of the bigger schools in the Midwest region, at some of these schools in the Missouri Valley, like Loyola Chicago, what they've been able to do here. Going back to your Gonzaga point, are they bigger than Gonzaga? It's interesting because there's a couple different ways of looking at it. Larry made the case of, you have to build it up over time and not just 1 year's worth, and I think that's valid. Yes. That's definitely fair.
That's fair.
This would be so unprecedented, though, if they were to win the whole thing, and just so dramatic
because you can't see Gonzaga didn't do that. That's exactly why.
Right, exactly. They haven't won it yet. And they've had more so that gradual run where they've checked off the boxes of Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four finally last year, and the championship game in the same year. And obviously they're still just missing that final step. But it would just be different ways of looking at it, per se. To me, Loyola Chicago, they easily bump into that conversation where they're the greatest, but it's just a different route than a Gonzaga.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. I can see them... Look, I can see their program has now catapulted from, let's say, from a low tier to, I think, even a higher tier type of program. That's the type of program. Loyola Chicago is a serious basketball program. Just off of this alone.
Proof's in the pudding.
It's proof's in the pudding. I mean, hey, they're going in order to keep their coach there. That's going to be the deciding factor.
I'm still kind of cracking up about you talking about how Loyola Chicago reminds you of Hoosiers and Hickory, Indiana. Is Porter Moser, is he Gene Hackman?
Yes, yes, it is. It reminds you of Hoosiers, man. It reminds you of Hoosiers where they were a team. They played Kentucky. Pat Riley was playing at the time for University of Kentucky, and they're just that team, that underdog team that you just think they wouldn't do it. They didn't have guys. I'm a basketball guru, and I look at that all the time, and I watch Hoosiers, and that's like one of the all-time best movies that any basketball players ever watched. I mean, that's what we watch. And that's a team that didn't have any pros. Those are guys that there's no one that really stands out to you. It's like you just gotta. They're a fundamentally sound team, and they just do everything right. They make minimal mistakes, and that's what makes them so tough.
This is why I think they're such a hard out.
Yeah.
Because this is not like a George Mason where, although George Mason had a phenomenal run, as we've talked about here in recent weeks, back in 06 as an 11th seed, there's similarities, but they weren't as fundamentally sound as this team.
Sure.
Again, it's not like, okay, we can clap and congratulate the Ramblers making it to the Final Four, now it ends. They're going to be a tough out. And like you said, we were at the Elite Eight game over at Staples last weekend. We saw Michigan take on Florida State. Michigan held on at the end, and they were fortunate that Leonard Hamilton basically threw up on himself, and the moment was too big for him. That won't happen for Porter Moser and this Rambler squad.
Yeah, and then the question is going to be this. What does Loyola Chicago do with Porter Moser? Because he deserves absolutely a better contract than what he's getting now. And he's going to, what are you going to do? There's going to be so many teams calling him after this, trying to get him to come over and coach their university.
That's why I posed it to Larry, is he maybe the next Brad Stevens?
Exactly.
Potentially.
And potentially he could be. And it's going to be hard for him to stay there. Now, it is. Because he's going to get a contract that's just going to be amazing. And
let's face it, right? It's always the dream of these coaches to coach at these big-time programs like a Kentucky, like a Kansas, like a Carolina. The list goes on.
Look, you see Jason Capel. Jason Capel went over to University of Pittsburgh.
Sure.
And so, you look at it, and that's why they coach. You coach to get into bigger programs. And it's going to happen. Hopefully he stays in Loyola Chicago and builds it up to being something special, because it's a special program already. And so we'll see. I'm excited about Saturday. I really am. Yes. I can't wait to have my eyes glued to that TV and watching those two teams go at it, because I just want to see what kind of scheme they're going to throw at Michigan. And I want to know how Michigan is going to respond to that. And then I want to know how Loyola Chicago is going to respond when they're down, because the game is about waves. And you're going to have waves, and can you sustain those waves? And
we see it in all these games.
Yes, and I want to see them. I know Loyola Chicago is going to be down 10 points, 12 points. I know that's going to happen. My thing is, do they get back in it, or do they lay on their back and just let it and just keep and let Michigan roll them? And I just cannot see them do that.
I don't see it either, not to mention the fact that Michigan has been inconsistent with their performances in this tournament. They very easily could have lost to Houston in the second round.
Yeah.
And, again, I think they were the beneficiaries of Florida State just mismanaging that whole game at the very end in the Elite Eight. So they've been fortunate in a sense, and you can make the case about the Ramblers as well in that regard, but I don't see, if Michigan wins this game, it's going to be tight. They're not going to run away with it. I'd be really surprised. Mo Wagner, he's been doing his thing. He's been phenomenal for them, but he really has been the main guy. They've gotten good guard play, but again, as far as the team goes collectively, it's been inconsistent, whereas Loyola's been the complete opposite.
Yeah, totally. All Loyola's whole objection is to keep it close. If they can keep it close, they feel they have an opportunity to win. And I think they're already going in for an opportunity. We got an opportunity to win this game. Forget who we're playing. They don't get caught up in the name and the big name. They just in the seeds. They just go out there and hey, they put on a jersey the same way I put on my jersey.
That's the beauty of this team.
And we're gonna win. And that's to me looks like their motto, and they're not intimidated. And to me, they got some matchup. They match up pretty well to them. So it's really going to be about execution in this game. I think it's going to be really about execution, minimal mistakes, and foul trouble. You can't send Loyola Chicago to the line.
Too good.
They're too good. As a team, I believe I think they shoot 60% or 70% from the free throw line.
That's where Michigan has also been inconsistent at.
Yeah. So I think if they're up 5-6 points, and you foul with 47 seconds left, let's don't go there again, Florida State. But, no, if you foul with 10, 15 seconds left, I think you're going to lose that game. or 30 seconds left, you're going to lose that game because they're going to knock down the free throws. So I think Michigan's a whole objective. We got to be up and be able to be up and have them foul us, and then we'll go and hopefully make some free throws at the end. But you don't want to play. You don't want this team, and this team is capable of blowing you out. That's another thing.
I know.
They don't just beat teams. You know, everybody's talking about this game could be close. This could possibly be another blowout.
I don't know if Beilein is going to get much sleep on Friday night. Just having that in the back of his mind, what happened to Kansas State.
Yeah. And
where some people thought maybe Kansas State could outlast them, it turned up just flipping upside down on him. It wasn't even close at the end. So it's Beilein's second Final Four. They made it to the championship game a couple years ago. They're back here again in this spot. You got 4 terrific head coaches.
Absolutely.
4 terrific head coaches who have gotten the best out of their teams. And in the case of 2 of the schools, it hasn't been a year in which you would think that they would necessarily get back to a Final Four. With Kansas not having a typical Kansas squad, they've played big here in late recent rounds of the tournament. And obviously with Michigan, they've been up and down. They got hot at the end of the season, and they got a fortunate shot, the Pool 3, to beat Houston in the second round. And obviously they've been clicking it in high gear in the last couple of games. So, but again, really, Michigan, Kansas are the 2 schools that have gotten back here this year. And it's been somewhat of a surprise, but it's the coaching that's been the constant glue there.
And it's not checkers, it's chess.
Yeah.
That's what it's about in these games. And, coaches are going to make mistakes, and that happens. But it's about also for coaching who makes the least mistakes. And you're going to see that. You know, like you said, these are 4 great coaches, and they know the game of basketball, and they know what to do in certain situations. It's about what team executes those strategies to the team. So I'm excited to see.
We both like Loyola over Michigan.
Yes.
And Kansas, Villanova, who you got?
I'm going with Kansas, man.
Yeah.
I got to go with Kansas because I've seen what they did to Duke, and I had Duke picked to win it all, but they fought back hard, and they just got guys that can step up at the end of the day and knock down shots. I still believe the thing is they're not just only, like I said, they're Devontae Graham is having the season of his life.
He's been phenomenal.
He's up for a winning award. I said that earlier this year, and I can see. Look, he's going to be a high pick in the NBA draft. But they got a few guys in there that are very good players that are going to be good picks in the NBA draft this coming up season. And then you got a great coach like Bill Self. Bill Self is just a highly respected coach. Jay Wright is too, don't get me wrong. But Bill Self is a great defensive coach. And you just don't down the stretch. Like Coach K, you see he's one of the best, probably the best. Best college coach out there was afraid to call a time at the end because he was afraid that Bill Self was going to have a defense for his whatever offense he threw at him. And, so I got to go with Kansas. Kansas is they've been rolling, and they've been rolling ever since I seen that West Virginia game, and I've been sold on them since then. I just thought that Duke would take care of business because they're a little deeper, but that didn't happen. Kansas sustained the wave, took it into overtime, and did what they were supposed to do and got it done. So I'm going with Kansas.
I'm taking Villanova. I think the guard play is going to be too much in the end for Kansas. Between the killer bees, as I like to call them, Brunson, Booth, and Bridges, it's the best backcourt in the country. I think Jay Wright is the best coach right now in America. Villanova is proving that 2016 was not a fluke. They've gotten a rap in recent years that outside of 2016, this is a team that has gotten upset a lot early in the tournament. They're proving it's not the case, that this is a team now that, look, in the last 4 years in college basketball, they've won more games than any other program. They have really been truly phenomenal on the court. They've built something there that I don't think many people outside of the Villanova community in the Philadelphia area thought was really realistic. For a school coming out of the Big Five to potentially become a blue blood powerhouse in America, I don't think that most people would have bought that This team made the Final Four back in 2009. It was Wright's first Final Four. That was somewhat of a hard to believe moment for a lot of Villanova fans and people across the country. People thought it was more one and done. It took them 6-7 years to get back there, but eventually they won the whole thing in 2016. I just think what they've built there is it's not fleeting anymore. It's here to stay. I had my doubts about them in the tournament because I was like, okay, let's prove it. Let's see, because like I said, they have been upset quite a bit over the years in the first couple of rounds. But they have proven the doubters wrong in this tournament. I can't pick against them in this spot. I just think Kansas, some of their games have been close where it very easily could have went the other way, especially with Duke. A Grayson Allen roll here or there, and we're talking about Duke versus Villanova. Seton Hall played Kansas very well earlier in the tournament. So their opponents have played them tougher, whereas Villanova has really just dominated in each one of their games this tournament.
Yeah, but one thing about Villanova, what I watched and I've seen them play, is they have problems against the press and a full court press. You saw that when they played against West Virginia in the beginning this year. I mean, you saw it even in the tournament. They have problems against the press, and Jay Wright made his adjustments. And, they just got over the hump and they just rolled them at the end of the game, But that's what I was, when I looked at Villanova, I said, there's the chink in the armor is pressure defense. And so my question is, does Kansas full court press them? Bill Self is known for a defensive coach. He's a defensive coach, and he's one of the best. And if West Virginia got a great coach too. Don't get me wrong. Higgins is up there. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame as a Hall of Fame coach
easily.
But can they sustain? Can they handle that? And they have some problems with it. And if that happens again against somebody like Kansas, it's going to be very hard to come back from that. So. If Kansas makes it a 90 feet game instead of a half of that, a 50 feet game, then Kansas got the upper hand, and that's what I think it is with this team. I think you have to not let them get in their sets. You can't let them walk the ball up. It's pressure defense against Villanova. And you just got to wear them out. You're not going to wear them out the first 5-10 minutes, but you just got to wear on them and wear on them and wear on them and wear on to the end until they get tired. And then they'll crack. And you saw that towards the end of the game with West Virginia. They started to press and turn over the ball, and they did it at the end of the first half, and they did it again in the beginning of the second half. The problem was Jay Wright made his adjustments, and they executed. So that's going to be a big question for me. The difference between West Virginia and Kansas. Kansas got a lot more arsenals than West Virginia does.
That's fair.
And that's fair to say.
The full court press could come to rear its ugly head in this game. Like you said, though, Wright made the adjustments against West Virginia, and ultimately they blew out the Mountaineers in that one. But Kansas does have the athletes to do it. We'll have to see. It is fair to bring it up. I do think that, and there's no doubt that if you're off on your game and you let guys like Devontae Graham and Newman get really hot, you could be in trouble.
Yeah.
I think Villanova's too good, though, for it. We'll find out.
We definitely will.
So you got Kansas taking on Loyola in the final. I got Loyola against Villanova on Monday night. We'll see how it plays out. I think Loyola's going to win the whole thing.
Nah, I can't. I can't go there. I can't. I mean, look, it's hard. You know what's crazy? If I sit back, and you said this a couple weeks ago that we wouldn't be talking about Loyola. But I'll say this. I say it's not Villanova is a really good team. I say Kansas is a really good team as well. And I have to go with Kansas for the simple fact that they have guards that can defend. They have guards that can defend, and they got a big inside who's atrocious, man. Like
Azubuike?
Azubuike,
yeah, he has been good.
He's a mountain to stop.
Yeah.
And Loyola Chicago, it's hard. I'll say it's. if we were saying this a couple of days ago, then I would say Kansas. I would say Kansas. Although I wouldn't even have a discussion. There's part of me that's saying Loyola Chicago's going to give them a run for their money and they can possibly win. That's what I'm getting at right now. But I just see Kansas pulling it out. I can see if Loyola Chicago does it, there's a great story behind that, and it's just wow, just something that you can see and watch and believe. I wouldn't be able to believe it, but I can see them going to the national championship and saying they're the best Cinderella team in history.
We might get a good sense of this after Saturday night.
Yes.
If they blow out Michigan,
then you know what? I'm gonna come back.
You're gonna think like to yourself in general, full steam ahead for this team.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back on Wednesday night and say, you know what, Brad? I told you Loyola Chicago's gonna win it all. I told you. But no, Loyola Chicago's. They got a chance. They got a shot. I think any of these four teams got a shot to win it for sure. But I would say if it for Kansas against Loyola Chicago, I'll go 60-40. 60% Kansas, 40% Chicago.
That's as close of a toss-up as you're going to get.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the Ramblers would take that. Yeah. They would definitely take that. We shall see. It's going to be great. Like you, I'm really excited for Saturday night and then subsequently on Monday night for the championship, regardless of who it is. I think, though, we both agree Loyola Chicago is pencil them in Monday night.
Yes. Pencil Loyola Chicago in. Baby, the Ramblers are coming with it on Saturday.
I can't wait.
I can't.
Don't forget, Loyola Chicago, Hoosiers, Hickory, Indiana.
That's right. Oh, I'm going Hoosiers, baby. Hoosiers. If Loyola Chicago played Hoosiers back
No, I'm just saying, just remember they're comparable to them.
Oh, they are.
Not necessarily them playing each other.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how that would go.
I don't know how that would go.
That would
be
be interesting.
But yes, Loyola Chicago is the Hoosiers. They're the Hoosiers, and I can see them getting it done, man. I can see it. That's why I'm giving them 40%, though. Give them 40% shot that they'll get it done and win the whole thing. But for sure against Michigan, I'm giving it 100% they beat Michigan.
It's Behind the Mic from Kings Cove inside the Toyota Sports Center. We're going to step aside for a break. On the other side, we'll talk about OBJ.
Oh, yeah.
And some possible landing spots for him if, hypothetically, he were to get traded away. We already know that the Giants are asking for 2 first-round draft picks for him. So we'll talk about that on the other side of the break, in addition to some NBA news as well. Some guys are going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. We'll touch on that and more after this.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cool time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
We're here early before they wake up. We stay late. We stay informed. We invest in the latest technology.
We take the time to train the next generation of doctors and nurses. We work together to make sure we heal their bodies and their minds.
We do this not because it's our job, but because this is about our veterans' lives. This is our mission. More than 300,000 of us working as one, together with families and loved ones. No matter where they live in this country, we'll be there.
We all come together and stand together to serve our veterans. We stand strong united. Stand with us in caring for our veterans.
Everybody buckle up. Buckle up.
Let's go.
Buckle up.
Can we go to the store? Mom, can we get some ice cream?
Everybody, buckle up.
A lot goes on in the car, but you're in control. So only move when you hear the click that says they're buckled in. Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
I'm more resourceful than I thought.
My suit can still make an impression.
My video games are still game changers.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill,
it helps fund job placement and training for people right in my community.
Now my stuff gets a second chance.
And will give someone in my community
a second chance too.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. That's goodwill.org. This message brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Behind the Mic with Brad Dalius.
Welcome back, Behind the Mic, live inside Kings Cove here in El Segundo. Brad and Keith hanging out. Got to talk about OBJ now, Keith.
Oh, God, here we go.
And the potential landing spots for him. This is really fascinating because you had an extremely talented football player who's phenomenal on the field. It's just a matter of getting him on the field. He's just been such a pain in the neck. He reminds me a lot of T.O., to be honest with you. When T.O. was with the Eagles back in the day, and all of his antics that basically drove him out of the league ultimately. Now he's a different person. But it reminds me a lot of that, although I think Odell potentially can be even better than T.O.
Yeah.
Talent-wise, I know that's saying a lot, but just what we've seen already, the small sample size, just his first couple years in the league, the things he's been able to do, it's just not normal. No. From making the one-handed catch to just being... Now, granted, he has been big in playoff games. He came up short in that wild card game against Green Bay a couple years ago. but he has been big for them. But what we've talked about, though, is the fact that he's been big individually, but from a team perspective, they haven't won.
Yeah.
That's been the MO. So that's where it gets into the conversation of if you're the Giants, do you consider trading him? There's no doubt they're considering it at this point. There's no question about that. Do they pull the trigger, though, is the question. And if they do, what would be some good spots for him, which we'll get into in a sec.
Yeah. Well, look, I talked to Tim Brown before about Odell Beckham, and Tim Brown told me that Odell Beckham could be arguably one of the best receivers in the game. He's clearly the best receiver. He's clearly the best receiver in the league, one of the best receivers in the league. And that's coming from a Hall of Famer, Tim Brown. I've spoken to Jerry Rice before about him. And it was kind of like his antics and things like that and what needs to happen. And, they said, he'll get on the right track and things like that. But essentially, they both kind of said that he's got the most talent in the league and he can be a great receiver in this league and arguably one of the best in the league right now. So, to say that they're coming from Hall of Famers like Jerry Rice and Tim Brown,
high praise.
Yeah, that's high praise. Now, it's a shame that, the thing is with Odell Beckham is that the Giants haven't won with him.
Right. This has been the ongoing conversation.
And that's the ongoing conversations we've had, is the Giants have not won with him. So you have to start looking and saying, what are other possible places that he can go? And I say this. I say you got to go with Sterling Shepard. You might as well go with Sterling Shepard as your lead receiver. Trade Odell. You got to get better in your line and your running back. You're going to keep Eli, so you got to get better in those two areas. And there's a great running back coming out of Penn State called Saquon Barkley.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you're going out. Definitely trying to go after him. And then you can get a great O-lineman. Go out and get a great O-lineman. I would do that. I would trade him. You have not won anything with him. Now, places he can go, I think Jim, with Mara coming out and saying what he said, two potential draft picks, I think he's talking to Cleveland. I think he's talking to Cleveland and saying, hey, you give me a quarterback, which I don't think they need a backup quarterback. There's going to be quarterbacks there. But if you want a backup quarterback, fine. I don't know why. I think you should get a lineman. But if you need a backup quarterback, you go get a quarterback, first-rounder quarterback, and you get Saquon Barkley. I think Cleveland should jump on that for many reasons. Number one is you already got Jarvis Landry over there, who's Odell Beckham's friend. They go good together. Number two, Cleveland Browns. There's nothing in Cleveland. Odell can't possibly get in trouble in Cleveland. ain't too many things to do in Cleveland.
One wouldn't think.
Ain't too many things he can do in Cleveland, right? He can focus on football. Two, you're going to have two of the lethal receivers, 1-2 tandems in the NFL. Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham. You got Tyrod Taylor, who you just picked up, which I know you're not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of him either. However, he's better than what you've had, and he can get on the ball. He got Benjamin. He plays the Patriots well. So I think, hey, go after Odell Beckham. Get Odell Beckham. Get them Saquon Barkley. Get them their little backup receiver they want. And because you don't know how these first rounders are going to pan out anyway. What if they're a bust? You just picked up. You made the best move in history, picking up Odell Beckham. So, can I see them going to Cleveland? Yes. I think Cleveland should pull the trigger and do that.
It'd be huge for the franchise to make a move like that. They probably need that type of jolt.
Exactly.
To breathe some life into the Browns organization. How about for Hugh Jackson, though? What it would mean for him.
Oh, my gosh.
Throw that man a bone. Come on.
Throw him, man. He'll be doing backflips down the sideline for you. You pick up Odell Beckham, I promise you, Hugh Jackson probably do a cartwell coming out the tunnel.
Literally.
Can you imagine?
Literally. I can maybe. It'd be the most excitement they have there. The dog pound needs a little excitement.
Yes. That's putting fans in the stands. Odell Beckham. So I definitely think Odell Beckham is a person that they need to look into and getting. I'll also say I'll say this. People say the Rams. I'm not thinking the Rams, man. You know why? Because they're a huge market like New York. But the problem is, Odell, there's so many distractions out here. He got busted out here. Like, that's pretty much when that video came out. He got in trouble out here. That's not a good place for him. LA is not good. Look, nothing against Drake, but he stays with Drake in Calabasas.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about it. He stays with Drake in Calabasas. There's distractions there. And yes, LA's a huge market. Yes, this is probably a play. I mean, he does fit the whole persona of Hollywood and this and that. He definitely fits that.
He does.
But I can't see that. And they said New England would be a great place for him, or New England's and Patriots. I do agree with that for only one reason. Bill Belichick, he's a hard-nosed coach. It snows in Boston, and it's very cold.
Agreed.
And
it's
cold in New York. Yes, it's still the same thing in New York.
They're never going to pay him.
They're not.
They're never going to pay him.
They're not going to pay him.
That's the only thing. But you're right. A New England would be exactly what he needs.
Yes.
I.e. Randy Moss. When Randy Moss came over from Oakland to New England, I mean, his whole persona changed.
Yes.
He would need that, but it's just not going to happen because they're not going to pay the money.
Yeah, they're not.
And you're right. I mean, Rams fans want to see him out here, but he can't go to the big city. It's probably not best for him, just like it would be a disaster if he went to the Dolphins. He already was on a boat in Miami when he wasn't even playing for them. Could you imagine if he's playing for the Dolphins on Sundays?
Yeah. It is a shame, Brad, that you have to go through. Where would be some places where he will not get distracted and he will just play the game of football? And
Arizona.
Arizona would be a great place. But then again, probably not. Because there's a lot of women in Arizona. Some pretty women in Arizona. I don't know, man. I'll just say this. I'll say Odell needs to really focus on football. And I think what's going to initially happen, if you keep getting in trouble, man, keep having sideline actors, you're going to end up being like a Terrell Owens. You know, your luck's going to run out. And it's a shame, that Terrell Owens who's been begging, and still to this day, to get back in the NFL, saying he can make a comeback and play. And really his
maybe like 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago. But it's been shortchanged. His career's been shortchanged because of his antics off the field. And Odell's going that route. And he's a great player. But he's not going to win with the Giants. The Giants, you're not going to win with them. You're just not. And
you're crazy, anyone who thinks the Giants are going to have a winning record in 2018.
Exactly.
No way.
No way.
This is a team who won 2 games in 2017. You're telling me now, 1 year later, with an aging Eli Manning, they're suddenly going to turn around and win 10, 11 games? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
There's no way they're going to do that. It would just make sense for them to trade him away.
It would. I mean, I totally agree with you.
How about Minnesota? Minnesota is a team who's ready to win now. With Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, add another weapon to the receiving core there. Beckham, that would be a good spot for him. I could see that potential.
That would absolutely be a good spot for him.
I don't know if Minnesota has any money left after dishing it all out to Cousins, but if they could swing it, that would be a good spot for him. I could see that.
Yeah, definitely. They'll have to give up 2 players. It's a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
You know what else would be a good place for him? Saints. New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees. Why not? You went to LSU. You were from LSU.
Yeah,
coming home. You had a great, successful career over there. Going to New Orleans. They're a team that's going to be, I'll say this, they're going to be in the top team, one of the top teams in the NFC.
They're my favorite as of right now in the NFC.
Yeah, you know what? And people haven't been talking about them as much because of the trades that have been going on, but they're a solid team, man. And I can see Drew Brees doing it. They were one. Let's not get into that game. That's just gonna piss me off. But they were there, and they're there. I know that player's not gonna make that same mistake he did before ever again. And Odell Beckham would just catapult them to a whole nother level. Yes, they'll probably have to give up 2 big players for him, but it's probably worth it.
It is for them. It would be for a team like them. I would agree. And Minnesota, too, because they're ready to win now.
Yeah.
You'd have to obviously, you just have to go around and see which teams it would be worth it for. It doesn't make sense for the Giants. It's really not worth it for them to keep him. But let's think how this is actually going to go down now. I don't think the Giants are going to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Because there's too much talent there. And I think Gettleman sees that. Mara definitely sees that ultimately. And they obviously are disappointed with his antics, but you would think at this point now, if it's not going to hit home, it's never going to hit home for him.
Yeah.
And if they do actually pull the trigger and trade him, you know that he's never going to turn the corner then, because they've come to that conclusion, obviously.
Uh-huh.
I just think they're in their mind, there's just too much talent with him, and they're ultimately going to hold on to him because it's just too much. They won't be able to live with themselves, Keith, if he goes to another team and has a phenomenal Hall of Fame career and wins potentially a championship somewhere.
Yeah, but they would never know unless they try it. I mean, if you're not going to, you're talking about you're trying to restructure your team and you want to get back to winning ways, then sometimes you got to give up the start in order to do that if you're not winning with that guy.
Here's the thing, to go off of that, obviously McIndoe was not the right coach.
No.
He's out the door. Insert, now they have Pat Shurmur. Is Shurmur a coach that can tackle the Odell problem?
I don't know, man. You know what? I thought what the Giants needed was a hard-nosed coach like John Gruden.
Yeah.
That type of personality.
Because Pat Shurmur is more of like a laid-back type of coach. Yeah.
And I just don't see it. I think they needed someone like John Gruden. I thought John Gruden was a good fit for them, but the Raiders attacked that immediately.
Yeah.
And
did I tell you the story about when I came back from Minneapolis from the Super Bowl on my connecting flight back here to L.A.? On my plane was Mark Davis.
Oh.
Did I tell you about that?
Uh-uh.
Yeah, Mark Davis was on the same flight as me heading back to... I had a connecting flight from San Francisco eventually back. It was Minneapolis to San Francisco, San Fran to L.A. He was on the flight from Minneapolis to San Fran.
To talk to him?
I didn't, no. I did not have a chance. That was an interesting night. I met some other people that night as well. But no, I did not get a chance to talk with him. He was with his daughter, I want to say, as well. Okay. He's private type of guy, it seems. So didn't have a chance that night. But yeah, he was. I digress. Mark Davis was on my flight back from the Super Bowl on that particular evening. So, but yeah, you're right. They threw a lot of money at Gruden. He couldn't resist it at all.
Yeah, well, that's going to be interesting, man. I don't. That's the type of coach they're going to need in order for them to, I think, be successful. And for Odell, I think it'll be good for him. But, hey, I wish Odell the best of luck. I hope that things work out for him. Hopefully this can be a season he can turn things around. But I cannot see, if any landing spots, I would have to say Cleveland or the Saints. I have to go with Saints. And I do like your Minnesota scenario as well.
Yeah, we'll see. It's obviously dominating the headlines here as the owners' meetings continue in Orlando this week and as we get closer to the NFL draft at the end of April. We'll get into some mock drafts coming up as April approaches us here very quickly in the next couple of days and into the coming weeks. This is a draft unlike any other that I can remember in recent times because of the talent at the top of the draft with a running back like a Saquon Barkley who's going to be picked very high in the top 5 and just with the potential of some of these bigger talented guys, star name type guys like an OBJ who is potentially being dangled out there as someone who could be traded away. It makes for such a fascinating draft that we haven't seen in recent memory. Again, at the end of the day, I don't think the Giants pulled the trigger because in their eyes there's just too much talent there to let him go because he is a phenomenal football player at the end of the day on the field. But it may be in their best interest because, as we have said time and time again, the team has not won under him. They bring in a new coach, Pat Shurmur. Is he the right coach to be able to move him in the right direction? Time will tell if Beckham stays with the team for 2018 and beyond. But at this point in time, you're not winning in 2018 anyhow. That's why this is so straightforward and should be so simple, Keith. Yeah. You're not winning in 2018. I know Mara is too shocked that this team was so bad last year, and he had his press conference, obviously, when they fired McAdoo around that time in the fall, that he just did not see this coming, which no one did. No one had them only winning 2 games last year, but I think you have to be realistic. Yeah. And you're not going to jump from 2 wins to 10 or 11 in one season.
That's not, unless you make some major changes. And major changes sometimes giving up your big star, and getting more for him. Then this is the time to do it. You cannot, if you're gonna do it, you got to do it this time. You got to do it now. And while he's in his prime, you can get more for him. And then later on down the line, look, he broke his leg. On top of that,
let's not forget that.
Let's don't forget about that. So we don't know what type of condition he's going to come back to be. We don't know. He may not be himself. He may not be able to get those separations like he used to. So if it was up to me, I would have to pull the trigger.
The beat goes on in that saga. We'll keep tabs on it, like I said, as the draft comes up next month and beyond, as the Giants look ahead to 2018. We're going to look now to some NBA news that's going on. Big announcement today was that the Hall of Fame inductees for 2018 were announced. Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, and Grant Hill were the 3 former players who were announced are going to go into the Naismith Hall of Fame in Massachusetts later this year. Thoughts?
Hey, look, Jason Kidd, of course, one of the top players in the top players in the league. He averaged a triple-double when he was in New Jersey Nets. And took them to the championship. They lost, of course, to the Lakers. But
back-to-back, actually.
Back-to-back,
right? Yeah. I think people forget about that.
They forget about that. Kmart, Kerry Kittles, Richard Jefferson. They had some players then. So, and Jason Kidd averaged a triple-double, which is insane. So, one of the best players. They compared him to Magic Johnson when he came in the league. He was a Magic Johnson type of player, and just shorter, but he passed just like him. Great player. Steve Nash. So I vouch for that. I think, yes, of course, Hall of Fame. Steve Nash.
Can we say former Laker Steve Nash, or was he not really here that long enough to be able to say that?
You know what? I give it to him. I remember Steve Nash, Phoenix Suns player. Phoenix Suns.
Of course.
Dallas Mavericks, he didn't stay there too long. He wasn't there long enough. But I think of a Phoenix Suns MVP year. However, I think they robbed Kobe off the MVP that one year that he should have got it over Steve Nash and gave Steve Nash a back-to-back MVP. But that's taking nothing away from Steve Nash. Steve Nash was a great player, automatic from the three-point line, free throw line, great passer, great playmaker. I got to give it to him. Yes, one of the best point guards in the NBA in the time. Steve Nash, definitely a Hall of Fame. Now you get to Grant Hill. No disrespect to Grant Hill. I love Grant Hill. I think Grant Hill came at a tricky time in the league. Grant Hill, after graduating from Duke University, was supposed to be Jordan's compared to Michael Jordan. Remember, that was the time Michael Jordan was on that lingo, but he was supposed to be the one that's supposed to be the next Michael Jordan, coming out of Duke. And he went to Detroit, did some things. He played a good season, but he came at a time where it was just like, I don't know. I think that was also a time of like that lockout period time too, and I don't want to say any mean things about Grant Hill. I just don't think he's a Hall of Famer, though. I think he's one of the best. I think he's one of the best guys, one of the best forwards. But I can name a couple more forwards that are ahead of him, and that Grant Hill's like one of those that you kind of like it's kind of like buried in the back. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't. I don't remember too much about Grant. Not even when he was with the Phoenix Suns. Like, he just got injured a lot. His prime was when he was with the Detroit Pistons.
It was.
That's when Grant Hill was at his prime. But he wasn't like this type of player to me that was like putting up extraordinary numbers.
No, he was a good player.
Yes.
He was a good player. Maybe solid at times.
Yeah.
But anything beyond that would probably be not doing him a favor. It would be uncharacteristic of a player he was. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I think this is very generous.
Yeah, I don't know.
Good player, don't get me wrong.
Good player.
Do you like him on March Madness coverage?
Of course.
It's good, right?
Of course.
He's a solid broadcaster.
He's a solid broadcaster for sure. You know, and his wife is fine. Tamia, I'm just saying that.
I don't know who's married
Tamia, his wife Tamia, she was a great singer. She was a singer. She's a songwriter. And she's a gorgeous woman, let's just say that. And she can sing. Look her up.
I'll take your word for it.
Listen to her music. It's really good. One of the R&B singers, Grammy Award winner. She's won a Grammy before.
There's a lot of talent in the family.
Yeah, a lot of talent in the family. But back to Grant Hill. Not a Hall of Famer, man.
Yeah,
All-star, but not a Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah, perennial all-star, all-pro, if you will.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Hall of Fame, I think it's generous. I mean, he averaged nearly 17 points per game, 6 rebounds a game, and, 4 assists. I mean, that's good. It's quality.
That's good. That's solid. That's all-star.
This is the problem. And with Hall of Fame these days, they've gotten so lenient on the Hall of Fame. It's supposed to be the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Not the Hall of really good.
Yeah.
I just think that they've gotten way too lenient across all sports with this. We vote way too many guys in who...
Sorry. I'm very disappointed in that. You know what? It should be Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, and the Kobe in that class.
Well, not yet.
I mean, come on, man. How long you got to wait?
Well, you got 5 years.
No, forget 5 years. It's an exception.
You make an exception to the rule.
You make an exception for Kobe Bryant. That's Kobe Bean Bryant.
Oh, he'll be in. He'll be in. I mean, he's going to get, if not 100% of the vote for his ballot, like 99.9.
He'd probably be in the Hall of Fame by himself, just one person in the Hall of Fame, Kobe Bryant. They just want to make a whole show about it.
Right, that's all you need.
No, but back, back what we were saying, that year, Grant Hill, I think I don't know. I just don't know how they come up to that conclusion for Grant Hill being in the Hall of Fame. Not to knock Grant Hill. I'm a huge fan of Grant Hill. Duke days, great. I remember his days with Detroit Pistons. Those are the days I remember where he was a great player, and that was in his prime. Then he went to the Orlando Magic. I kind of teetered off there, didn't do anything. Went to Phoenix Suns. Probably averaged about 10 points a game, maybe 8 points a game. That's toward the tail end of his career. But also, you got to also remember Grant Hill had a lot of injuries.
He did. When he went to Orlando, there was some thought that maybe him and when Tracy McGrady was there, they could rekindle some of his good play from his prime days, like you said, in Detroit. But it just never happened. And going into the injuries, that was a big problem. That was a big reason because of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a big question mark about the Grant Hill one. But other two, I vouch for sure.
Let's hit on a couple things here quick. Markelle Fultz, we had a sighting this week. He was found.
Oh, Markelle.
He was found. There was a search going on for him, Keith, for a long time.
He lost his jump shot.
They finally found him, though.
They found him on the floor, and then he hurt Joel Embiid today. What happened? Fractured his face.
I know this wasn't like a paper cut or something. I mean, man, oh man, it's a brutal injury for Joel Embiid. He's got a concussion. It could be even a little worse than that as well. I mean, wow.
Yeah, man, Joel Embiid down for the count. But
But Fultz, though, can we expect him here on a regular basis going forward?
I don't know.
It's still a big question mark, right?
It is, but you know what? I give it to Stephen A. on First Take the other day. He said it well. Markelle Fultz, you don't dodge questions. People want to know what happened to you when you're hurt and stuff like that. And he kind of dodged that.
He thought he was still at Washington. That was the problem.
Yeah, like you're in Philly, and it's true. You're in Philly, one of the toughest places to play at. And when those people come and support you and give you and you're talking about, I thought they were cheering for Nick Foles when he was that's what I thought he was just cheering for Nick Foles. No, it was cheering for you, idiot. Like you haven't been on the court. They didn't know where you were.
Look, he was trying to crack a joke. It didn't work.
It didn't work. You don't do that to Philly fans. I'll tell you that right now. I've actually got into a argument with a Philly fan one day, and she was at a bar, and she was going for the Eagles. And, of course, I'm going for the Patriots. And I said, F the Eagles. And she said, F you. And I was like, F you. She was like, F you.
This is in Philly?
No, this was out here in L.A.
Oh, okay.
And she goes, F you. And I swear for 3 minutes, all it was F you, F you, F you. Back and forth. That was all it was, the conversation. Until she walked away. And then I said, and then she said, and I'm going to go to the parade, too. And I was like, the divisional parade? They're not winning the Super Bowl. I know she wants to call me right now and say, hey, F you, and then hang up the phone. So, hey, Philly fans are tough, man. They're a tough pickle. You can't, so Markelle Fultz, you gotta answer those questions for those Philly fans, man. That's just one thing you gotta do. They're the most loyal fans. I have to say, they're more loyal than Boston fans and LA fans. Oh, LA, well, LA, you know how LA fans are. They don't.
A lot of options out here.
They have a lot of options out here, but Boston fans, New York fans, they're more loyal than those fans. And when they ask, and those are Philly reporters, Philadelphia reporters, when they ask questions, you got to give them a respect and answer. You are a rookie, you haven't done anything, and you got to answer those questions. So Markelle Fultz is back. Yes, it's good to see that, but you got to see him do some damage, man. I want to see that jump shot.
The Steph Curry injury. What does it mean for Golden State going forward? Is this a type of injury that can break their back?
No. Man,
why not?
Golden State ain't worried. They got Kevin Durant. That's all I got to say. Kevin Durant, Draymond Green. You go down, Swaggy P has lost his mind shooting threes and everything. You know what's funny? His interview when he said, he's hilarious. He has no filter.
No, he
Swaggy
doesn't.
P said, I hope he's okay because I'm trying to get a championship. Like, forget about that. We want to get a championship. We need him. He just has no filter. And, but one thing about the Golden State Warriors, man, is like I said, they don't care if they're in third place, fourth, fifth place, whatever. You cannot beat them in a series. Houston will not beat them in a series. Even
without Curry?
Even without Curry. I'm telling you right now, they cannot beat them in a series. Kevin Durant is a monster. As long as KD's out there, that's going to be a problem. And you can't say he's, to me, the second best player in the league. So
he is a problem. That's for sure. I think though, if Curry, if he's out indefinitely, and if he doesn't play against Houston, that could be a problem. I think for them.
No,
I think it could be a problem.
I will say this:
the seeding. We agree on the seeding doesn't matter.
The game will go to 7, and Golden State will win. That's it. If Steph Curry plays,
if he's back on the court,
Steph Curry's back on the court, the game doesn't go to 7. The game goes to 6 or 5.
Yeah, I agree on that.
They're not beating them.
But if he's not 100%, Keith, though,
it don't matter.
Still doesn't matter.
It don't matter. He ain't got to be 100%. They that deep. They're that deep of a team and that lethal of a team that it doesn't matter. You're not beating 4 All-Stars. Or 3, on that matter, 3 of the top-tier All-Stars. So I'm going to say you don't have nothing to worry about. They have nothing to worry about. I don't think they're worried. And they're resting their guys. KD's coming back, and Steph Curry will be back. He probably won't be back first round. Well, I don't know. They're talking about he'll be back before the first round. And,
there's been conflicting reports.
Yeah, conflicting reports. And I think that is we're going to need a championship team. But they're going to, those guys are not worried. Believe it or not. This is all built-up story. They're not worried.
I'm thinking there might be a little worry. Maybe a little bit worried. I mean, they are human after all.
They are human. But they sure know how to put that ball in the basket. And they're very good at it. And it's not just the talent on the team. It's the way they play. Because even without the Spurs had trouble beating them without Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry. That tells you something. Those guys can run a system to the T. So I'm going to go with there's nothing to worry about.
I'll give you this. Durant definitely makes up for a lot of guys being out and a lot of deficiencies on your team. Not like this team has a lot in general. Exactly. But it's almost fitting, though, that they go through adversity like this.
That's true.
When they're trying to repeat.
Yeah.
3 out of 4.
It's very tough to repeat, and they need to go through it.
Makes for great drama here.
Of course.
We know the NBA's got to love that because they could probably use a little bit of drama in the postseason coming up.
Definitely.
Hey, that's going to do it for tonight's show. Really great one tonight. Awesome show here from Kings Cove inside the Toyota Sports Center.
And I want to get our shout out real fast to Kemba Walker, who's the top scoring champion, was the all-time scoring champion for the Charlotte Hornets.
Yes, already, right? We talked about him recently as well, and he loves March. What can you say?
I know.
He does great things in March.
He does, man.
He's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal interview tonight, by the way, when we spoke with Larry Hawley from WGN-TV and CLTV in Chicago. It was a lot of fun chatting with him, talking about the Final Four. Go Ramblers, baby.
Go Ramblers.
Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week. Keep living the dream.